process. Go ahead and grab yourself a medium to large Yukon Gold potato like this one. I like them on the medium size. I don't like to go too big. So right there, keep the skin on, and you're just gonna dice this up like we have done in the past with some of our potatoes and such, onions. Now you're gonna cut this up into small cubes. Yukons have a tendency to expand when they boil in water, especially when they parboil in water that has vinegar in it, which you will see in a minute, but this water does. So I'll show you guys here what size you want. You're going to want to make sure that they're not too small either, because if they are, then they'll burn very easily. And because we do use a good bit of oil, you're just going to get like an overwhelming taste of oil, and you don't want that. You want the potato to shine through, so not too big, not too small. And I'll show you guys a little bit closer once I'm done chopping these, what they're supposed to look like. This is this particular way of dicing and making home fries I've been doing for years and years, really. And it's really simple, but I've sort of perfected them over the years, and different potatoes react differently, so you have to keep that in mind. Sweet potatoes, Yukons, red potatoes, everything kind of reacts a little bit differently. I personally like the Yukon Gold potatoes because they have a sweetness to them, just a natural sweetness that plays on the salt and pepper really well. Just keep chopping away. I'm showing you guys the full process this time because I feel like the last video was kind of choppy. It was just a little too, I don't know, I think I tried to streamline it a little too much. So I'm showing you guys pretty much the full process. I'll probably cut a few clips here, but I'm not going to dice it all to pieces like I did last time. No pun intended. Now you can see about the size that I've mushrooms in most recipes. Like I said, I put these in curries and stir fries and omelets and pastas and everything, you name it. I love mushrooms. Baby bellas, creminis, you name it, white button mushrooms. Just love mushrooms. So now that we've got our mushrooms, we're going to go ahead and give our kale here a nice rough chop. Rough chop. Rough chop. Rough chop that kale like so. Set that to the side, and we're going to grab our onion, and just like before in our soup, we're going to cut it thin, except we're not going to cut it quite as small. We're not going to dice it into such small pieces. Get rid of that little outer skin, and just dice it, not rough, but also not super thin, because you want to taste the onion and the texture and everything. You kind of want that to play off of everything else in the frittata. So dice it thin, but not super thin or fine like you would in a soup or something like that. Go ahead and set that to the side. Grab our tomatoes, our nice plump grape tomatoes, and grab as many as you like. I can't eat too many nightshades, but I like to dice these up into about quarters, just so that they're not too large, but also I do want to taste them. You know, I do like the texture and the taste of tomatoes, so I want to make sure that they are in there. So we're just gonna dice these up like so, but feel free to add as many and dice them up to whatever size you would like. Pretty straightforward, right? So now we've got all of our ingredients. We've got the kale and the sausage together. Then we're going to take this stuff over here, the tomatoes, the mushrooms, onion, and we're going to put it in a separate area, like on a separate plate. So let's go ahead and get ready and check our potatoes. So this is about where you want your potatoes at and where you want your water level to be once you're ready to drain them and dry them. So make sure they are pretty dry, otherwise you're going to get oil splashed on you. But right about here is where you want. Let's take a medium to large pan, depending on how many potatoes you have, and go ahead and heat that up. And going to go ahead and cover the bottom of the pan in oil pretty much until the entire pan is covered. Let it heat up, get nice and hot, and then in the pan it goes to sizzle. You should hear that nice sizzly sound. Make sure that oil's nice and hot. Now we're going to go ahead and grab some eggs. I've got 5 eggs here, and we're just going to crack these into a bowl. Now I will mention you can let your potatoes sit. The technique is pretty specific to get that really nice, crispy, golden, delicious, home fry taste. So you can let them sit initially to get nice and crispy, but don't let them burn, so sort of keep an eye on them. Now that we've got our eggs cracked, we're going to give them potatoes here a little saute and see that color. A little bit of color on them, but not burned. Try to keep them as even as possible, and once they do start to turn color, you want to go ahead and move them around fairly often. Kind of the same principle with the onions in a soup. So back to our eggs, we're going to add some salt. A little bit of salt in our eggs there. It looks like so much salt, but it wasn't, I promise. It's a lot less than it looks. Some pepper, of course. Delicious. I don't know why it looks like I'm adding so much seasoning. Some garlic powder. Those elements, wow, it's crazy how much it looks like from here. And of course, our Indian curry. Gotta have my curry in my eggs. It adds such a great flavor. If you're not adding curry to your eggs, what are you doing with your life? Then add a little bit of Cholula, because I love some hot sauce in my eggs. Give this nice little mix up there, or as Joshua Wiseman would say, some whiskey business. Now typically when you make scrambled eggs, you don't want to whisk them this much. You kind of want to leave them together and do more of your scrambling in the pan, but because this is a frittata that's glass of Parmesan cheese, but I promise you it's not that much. I should have shown inside the bowl so you could see. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this back up nice and tight and put it back in the fridge so it stays fresh. Alright, now we're gonna go ahead and add some salt and pepper to our potatoes. Nothing fancy, just salt and pepper. That's it. We don't want to go crazy with like garlic and everything else. We just want good old-fashioned salt and pepper and kind of eyeball it like I do with everything, but I've been doing this a long time, so I kind of know. And you hear that sound? That's the sound you want right there. That nice, crusty, crispy sound. I'm gonna let you hear it a little bit closer. Yeah. That's the sound you want. You want those potatoes to bounce. Go ahead and carefully put them in a bowl. And we're gonna go ahead and saute up in the same pan our sausage and kale together in a little more olive oil. Then later on we're gonna add our mushrooms and tomatoes. So this process goes a little quickly because things start to brown pretty fast. So again, saute up our mushrooms and tomatoes and onions with our now sauteed sausage and kale. Grab yourself some delicious Kerrygold grass-fed butter. Almost out, so it's in. Go ahead and cut off about a tablespoon of this butter, and then this is going to go into our pan. It's going to melt over top. As you can see here, the butter is now melted. That way the whole bottom of the pan is ready for our eggs. In go the eggs to our pan. Let them sit